The management is now joining us. Firstly, sir, congratulations. Mr. T.K. Kurian, CEO at Wipro, as well as Group President Abid Ali is now joining us. Mr. Kurian, let me start with you first. IT services revenue came in at the lower end of the band that you had guided for. Are you happy with this performance? Industry players have performed better despite the Chennai impact. What essentially happened at Wipro?
So, Anisha, really, I think you should just read into the numbers a little carefully, because really what we have done is that with our growth rate, we have come in at the midpoint of our constant currency guidance. We have not come in at the lower end, just to clarify. So, having said that, the reason why you see the reported currency number down is primarily because of the cross-currency impact that we have had, driven by the GBP and by the euro. But I think the biggest thing that we have noticed last quarter has been the fact that in spite of Chennai, we have come in at the midpoint. If you look at our constant currency growth compared to our peers, we have done better. I just want to clarify that, because that doesn't, again, like I said, it doesn't come out very clearly. But having said that, last quarter for us was the quarter where every employee in Wipro really stood up and demonstrated resilience. Our Chennai facility was under 11 feet of water. We had to, with 20,000 people were affected. We had to relocate 10,000 people. 7,000 we had to fly out of state. Customers were not affected at all by the Chennai floods. So in a way, it was decent from an execution perspective. From a deal wins perspective, we had 6 large new wins. The service lines that we wanted to kind of do well on, things like infrastructure, things like digital, have done extremely well. If you look at digital, our digital growth is in double digits, and it's not in the, in the marginal double digits. It's much more than that. More importantly, what we have found is that areas like analytics are again doing well. So to that extent, it's been a very satisfying quarter.
Right. Abid, let me come to you as far as guidance is concerned. 2 to 4% guidance for Q4. What is the strategy to achieve? What is the sort of acquisition that you have done? How much of it is it factored in?
Right now, as I prepare to take over on February 1, I am in deliberations with my team as we put together a strategy. We've got a very clearly articulated ambition internally, and we are now putting a strategy and an execution plan towards that strategy. I feel very privileged to be taking over Wipro, and I've got a fantastic and a very stable leadership team. We are at the cusp of an opportunity. The technology world is significantly changing, and in a way, Wipro's strengths of doing a large number of discretionary spend projects, the engineering and innovation talent that we have, the intellectual property that we have in terms of Wipro Homes and hyper-automation and augmented intelligence are all things that customers are looking for. At the same time, we've had a very clear acquisition strategy. And if you look at some of the acquisitions we've done, like Designit, which very well complements in the digital space the creativity part of user experience. The Celent acquisition in Europe, which addresses the German market, especially in the manufacturing sector, which is a big opportunity in continental Europe, as well as the one that we've announced in platform-based BPO at Vitios, which complements our capital market strength on the buy side in as a service model, which is going to be the future of the industry. So while I will take a while to publicly articulate our strategy after I have deliberated with my team and we've put the plans together, I feel very optimistic in terms of Wipro's positioning, and a lot will depend on how we execute on the strategy, and that is where my focus is going to be.
Mr. Kurian, did deal closure improve in Q3? Any client-specific issues which led to any delays?
Not really. In fact, I don't know whether you caught the message that I had given earlier. This quarter has been an outstanding quarter when it comes to deal closure. In fact, they've probably had one of the biggest deal closures in the past couple of quarters last quarter. So that's been a very positive experience. In verticals like energy and utilities, where typically, every time we think the oil price has kind of hit the bottom, it hits a new bottom. we have done a terrific job in consolidating our competitors out of our accounts. Today, if you look at a large global player in the oil services business, we today own about 85% of the real estate in that particular customer. So we think when the oil price comes back, we'll be very well positioned to kind of capture growth. In terms of pure verticals, I think our retail business has done extremely well, which is now called the consumer business. Our digital business has done well. So we're not seeing any great delays from customers. I think what we are going to see is a mixed kind of feedback coming in this year in terms of budgets. The budgets are still not closed completely, but our initial indications show that we are probably going to have a flat to slightly negative technology budget in most of our customers going into the year. I think the problem is going to be a little more accentuated when it comes down to customers in the US, because we believe that US customers are going to be under significant cost pressure. On the other hand, we believe that European customers are going to have more discretionary spends this year, and hence our Celent acquisition, I think, is extremely well positioned to kind of garner that part of it. So overall, I would say a decent quarter. Of course, as I pass the baton over to Abid, I think the biggest thing that which is really Abid's strength, which will play very well to, is the fact that Abid at the end of the day is a fabulous execution person. So the organization needs more execution going forward. So I think that's really where the focus is going to be.
Mr. Kurian, the performance of the energy vertical, 15% of your revenues come from the energy pack with crude going down. How are you seeing client budgets?
Look, if I could bet on where the oil price was going to go, I wouldn't be sitting here, right? I'd be going out and playing the markets like crazy and probably making 10 times the money that I make here. The issue is pretty simple. You cannot build a business based upon the cyclicality of a market. You have to build a business based upon what you believe in. We really believe that the commodity super cycle will come back, and when it comes back, we should be in a position to really go out there and do extremely well. When we control customers and we control significant market share, we believe we'll be very well positioned to get that. In the short term, I think we have enough levers to go out there and get growth. I don't think we are dependent completely on energy and utility to make sure that we are able to survive in this market.
Right, Mr. Kurian, how do you see the new client formation coming in? Do you see realizations better? Are you seeing pricing pressure?
So overall, I think from a realization perspective, we see realization this quarter has gone up a little bit in spite of the fact that we have had lower working days. But I think the bigger issue is that long term we see realization being more or less flat. It's easy for me to kind of comment on it, but Abid is the guy who's going to really talk through this because he's going to be the guy who's going to deliver quarter 4. So I'll hand it over to Abid.
So our new client acquisition has been very robust. Our win ratios have been very good. We've acquired about 39 new clients this quarter. As far as pricing and realization is concerned, there are two parts to it. One is the run part of the business and the change part of the business. I think we are very uniquely positioned to be able to deliver on the change part of the business because the core of Wipro is very technology and engineering centric, which is what customers want. And there we will be able to realize pricing which have certain premium. On the other hand, on the run side of the business, it is about innovating through hyper automation and industrialization of delivery so that we can deliver at a cost point which is leading in the industry. And we are focused on both these areas. I think as TK rightly mentioned, overall, the pricing will be determined by the market, and we are preparing our cost structures to be able to be profitable in the pricing that the market determines.